Hey guys, we're back. And after finishing off our trading menu or widget, however you want to describe it, we are now going to have a look at the inventory and crafting. So, we can press play, and we don't want to do that. So that's off to a good start. And there we go. So, the interesting thing here is that we probably want something either in the center or on the right here or on the left, which is going to show what we've got in a crafting queue. Okay, so basically what we're going to need to do is, firstly, we're going to have to look in our recipes to find out, number one, what we can craft. So we have where made, which is a possibility to amend destruct, or we have DT items, craft by hand. Okay, so we have a craft by hand, and what we need to do is adjust this structure and have a craft by hand time. Okay, so we're going to put that in there. It's going to be a float, and we'll call it hand crafting time. Okay, so that is going to affect our DT items. We now have hand crafting time, so we can craft copper wire, so we can give that a time of, let's say, 10 seconds. Actually, we'll make it 5, so we are not waiting too long. Okay, we have the widget, and the hand crafting time we will say is 10 seconds, and the new thing is going to be 30 seconds. Okay, now that we've got that set up, we probably need a widget for this. So in our widget we shall create a new folder, and we shall call it crafting. And we shall create a widget here, and we shall call this crafting list. Okay. So we shall go in here and we shall wrap this with another canvas panel. And then this is going to get moved, so we shall basically, this is going to go on the bottom, let's say the bottom left. So that's going to be 0. That's going to be size to content, and we shall start adding stuff. Now what I want in this is possibly if we go to images, then in game, in menus, I think this was actually just like a testing one, so that's not the one we're actually using for the game. So what I'll do is we'll look in main menu, images, it's not main menu, right, so it's buildings menu, and the scroll box select, and as you can hear, the dog has lost its mind. So what we'll do is we shall paste this in here. Now this is just going to give us an idea of what we want. And well, the size is going to be divided by 0.75. Okay, so it's actually going to be that times 0.75. Well, that's obviously doesn't work for this. Okay, we'll try something else. So let's bring up a calculator, shall we? So 1115 times 0.75 equals, that's going to be 836. And that's 232 times 0.75 equals 174. 174. Okay, 174. So we're going to bring that to 2. In fact, we'll make that 2.5. That'll do for now. Oops, we've moved the image instead of the canvas panel, so that was a bit stupid. Okay. So it's not going to give us it back, so that's 0.5 I think. It's 1. And this is 0.5. Right, so now we need to move this canvas panel. And that's way too high. That's more like it. Let's make it 1.1 minus, so that's going to be minus 0.2. It's way too much. Minus 0.1. Okay. So this is going to be our basically a grid. Okay. And what we're going to do, so we'll save that for now. And we shall call this image back. And then in here, we're going to put a grid panel. And it's going to go in the canvas panel. And then you know what? Grid panel, and that's going to be full. So offset is going to be 0. Okay. And now offset left, I'm going to say 15. And say 15. I think it's going to have to be 2020. Okay, we'll go 20, 20, 20, 20. Okay. So our basically our panel's going to go left to right. And the next thing we're going to do is we're obviously going to delete that. And we're going to need some variables here. And it's going to be item. It's, yeah. So it's going to be item. And it's going to be of the type struct supply. And it's going to be an array. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need, we'll save that for now. So this is going to be an array of items. Okay. And on the click of our button, which is going to be in our inventory, and it's crafting item. Okay. So if we click on that, then we shall if we click on this right, so we'll start at the basics here because this is going to get a little bit complicated. And here's the button here, right? We've got the item, so that's cool. So we need to say get all actors a class, get all widgets of class actually, right? And actually we could use an event dispatcher here. Event dispatcher, yeah, possibly. Instead of getting the widget, we could just use the event dispatcher. Actually, we're going to have to use yeah. Problem is that we need to know if this exists or not anyway to actually create it. So we would actually have to, well, we could still do it, because what we could do, right, is in our controller, okay, let's go about this and see if we can do it. We probably can. So basically we can add a variable and it's going to be widget crafting list, okay, and it's going to be of the type W underscore crafting list, okay. And the next thing we need to do is in our crafting item, let's create an event dispatcher and say create crafting list. And we can save that. So we create the crafting list, right? And then we call it, I believe, and then in our controller, we bind right, let's see what we've got here. We can cast bind to it's create, isn't it? Create crafting. Okay. So this is kind of showing that I don't know how to do event dispatchers, but it's a long time since I've done one, so you'll have to bear with me on this. And we'll see, whatever. Right, we'll delete that again. Crafting list. Is this bind? Okay, hang on a second. Oh, it doesn't seem to like that very much. Now I don't know if I've got to actually got to do this. I'll try it. I forgot to use you know what it is? Right, create bind event to create crafting list. Okay. So if we add that in there, excuse me, and we can, yeah, we're gonna have to custom, add a custom event, get this back onto context sensitive. this is going to be add crafting list, and we shall basically stick another custom event here. We're just playing about tonight, guys, by the way. Just trying to test a few things, try to remember if we can do event dispatchers and how they work. So what we can do here is we can say create crafting list. Okay, and then in here we'll just say create crafting list. Okay, and that keeps that kind of tidy. And then in create crafting list, what we'll do is we shall check this, we'll get that, and we'll say is valid. Okay, and if it is valid, what we shall do is nothing. So if it's not valid, we basically create widget, and it's going to be a crafting list. Oh, thank you for subscribing, Coffee. That's very kind of you. So the next thing we have to do is add this to viewport, right? Add to viewport and test it. Then we can save it. And it doesn't like that. What is this? It's a crafting item reference. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna have to read up again on event dispatchers because I thought it would just send it to everybody. But obviously I'm wrong. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to copy this. I'll revisit this and I'll get an event dispatcher working on my time off. So we'll muck about with that and we'll say get all actors of class. We are going to change the design of this. I think this is all going to probably move into the controller, to be honest. Right, it's going to get all actors of class. There only is going to be one, so we'll just say copy, get a copy, version 0. We need to check this length, basically. So we say length, and then we say is greater than 0, then we're going to branch. So I'll put this down here just now, so that we've got plenty of room. Zoom in on that again. I always feel on stream that you've got to make like rapid progress or something like that, but sometimes it just doesn't happen like that. So if it's false, basically we create the widget. Okay, so we can save that. So now, if we go in here, then we hit our inventory button and we click on this, you'll see that this now pops up. Now that's what should happen, and basically the item that you selected should go in here, which we're going to do in a second, of course. Okay. So we can stop that. And then, so this is on button craft, that's okay, right? So we have our item and we pass the item to the crafting list. Which is going to be this here. Okay? So, we're going to add custom event. And this is going to be add item to list. And it's going to have an item. And that's going to be an E item. Excuse me. And then we're going to have, now this is for later, so we're going to set this to 1 by default, but we're going to have a quantity as well. So the quantity as an integer, and we're going to save that. And then back in our crafting item, we're basically going to do this and say add item to list, and we're going to get our item, right, and we're going to say 1. Okay, so we're going to save that. We're going to add that here. And basically we do the same thing, but we don't create the widget if it's true. So the next part, save that. We shall go to our crafting list. So we shall go in here, we shall get this, and basically if this item exists, we add 1 and if it doesn't exist, we create a sub widget, or we add a sub widget to the grid panel at the column that we want. Okay, we're going to use the grid panel. We're going to take advantage of its properties, and one of the properties, if there's nothing in a column, then it doesn't show the column. So we can have it that basically at column 5 we start our widgets, but it's actually just going to move it left and make the column look like it normally would. So we're not too worried about this, but the thing is here is we need to do like a for each loop. Okay, now we're going to have to do a little bit of thinking about this, because this list isn't going to be a unique list. For example, you can have 2 copper wire, then 2 new things, then 2 copper wire. So we're always going to have to look for the value that is the highest value in the array and add it to that. So let's just start it off, okay? Let's start it off and get ourselves going. So we will say we can probably use a contains here. And it's just a true or false. So we would actually use, right, so we don't use it like that. I'm just wondering if you can use one. Okay, I don't think we can, right? So we're just going to have to do, we're going to do a for each loop. And in the first instance, we're just going to basically say if this equals, if our item equals this item, right? So we branch that. Now we are going to have to change this at some point, but we're just doing the first iteration of this. Then basically we add okay, so in the first event, if this item is not ever in this item, okay, I think we're going to do a function. Return highest array position. Okay, and the output is going to be an integer. So it's going to be index. So this is going to return, and by default, this value is going to be -1. So what we need is a local variable, and we shall say temp index, okay, and it's going to be an integer, and it's not going to be an array, so we save that, and default value, if we can get down here, it's going to be -1 by default. Okay, so we're going to make sure we set this by default to min -1. Okay, now we need an input here, and our input is going to be the item, and it's going to be e-item. Okay, then we're going to get our, this should really be called item list or crafting list or something. Anyway, so we drag this in, we get this, we do our for each, okay, we do our break struct, pull it down a little bit, drag this, we need to do our equals, okay, we drag this into here, and now we branch off of this. So we're basically checking the items, we're going through the list, okay, and it's going to index from basically from 0 upwards, okay, and if it's true, we're going to set our temp index to this, and this will naturally end up the highest value. So from there we can carry on. We'll straighten that connection to the reroute node, and basically once it's complete we fire back the value of temp index, and that gives us the last position. Okay, that gives us the very last position of this particular product type in the array. Okay? And finally, if it's not the very last position in the array, then we need to add a new thing to the list. Right, so in actual fact, what we can do here is we can add another return value, right? And we can say is last index. That's going to be a bool. Okay. And what we can say here is if the temp x temp x equals, no, not minus, so if temp x equals the length of this array minus 1. Minus 1, actually, there. And we should plug this in here, and plug this in here. So, if it's the last item in the index, then it's true, it is the last index. And therefore I can add to that index. If it's not the last index, then we need to add a new item in the crafting list. Okay? And if the index says -1, we have to also add to that crafting list. Okay? So, what we can do is we can delete this. we can return highest array position, and the item goes in here. Now what we can say is if this equals -1, then we add a new item to this list. If it's not, then we do something else. We add it to the index. Right, so what we'll do is we'll plug this in, we'll plug that in. Now, the index is the kind of key thing here. So, if it is equal to -1, we item list and we drag this in, get item list, then we add, okay? And the item is going to be this item. Actually, we make a supply, make a structure, and the item goes in here, and we add 1. Normally this would be the quantity. So we can actually just plug that in there. Okay. So we can kinda test this, kinda, to see if our item list is being created. So what we can do is, basically we can do this, we can click on that, we can click on that, then click on that, and now if we add a breakpoint here, we should be able to have a look at this array to see what is actually in it. Okay, so in our array we have nothing, which is not a good sign. Which is not a good sign at all. So let's go add a breakpoint, and we shall add a breakpoint here. And we'll try this again. So our item should be copper wire. And this is going to be nothing. So that is going to be -1. So that is not right. Wait a minute. Right, so that should still have brought back -1. Right, we'll play. Ah, damn it. Right, okay, let's do our thing here. We'll press copper wire. So that takes us into copper wire. Okay. And if we resume, we get to here. And temp index equals -1. That equals -1. Okay. And then if we go back to our event graph, add to breakpoint, resume, that should be true, which it is. And we step over that, and that's copper wire in 1, and that's our list. So that's resume. Okay. So if we click widget, right, we can resume that, and it should return -1. That's right. Doesn't matter about this if this is -1. We can resume that. We can check that in a second. So if we step over, that array list is being cleared somewhere. But it's not. Why is okay? So this isn't quite going so well. So we shall take this array and we shall say for each loop we'll do that, and we shall do a print string. Okay, and we shall break that, and we shall add the item in there. Okay, so let's add breakpoint, compile that, run that. Now this should now I really don't thanks for letting me know, Thomas. I'd gradually wandered away from the microphone. I've maybe got the microphone set up wrong. I'll check that tomorrow as well. But thanks for letting me know, Thomas. You were a decent president here, by the way, as well. So we'll test that again. Right, so we've added copper wire. We can resume that. We can resume that. We can resume that. We can step over that. And that's right. And we can resume that. And we can resume this. Is this just kind of doing something weird here? Or is it me? Right, we'll click on widget. We'll resume that. Resume that. Resume that. Step over that. It's got widget. It's cleared it. For some reason, okay. For some reason, this variable is clearing itself. Now, don't ask me why, because I've got absolutely no idea. We'll say instances. Oh. Yeah, I keep wandering away. I keep wandering away from my microphone. It's a bit of a pain, to be honest. Thanks for letting me know, though, Thomas. I'll try and do better. Right. So this is all a bit weird as we start our crafting list. Right, we'll resume that, resume that, we'll resume that, we'll resume that. So there we get our copper wire. Then we'll click on our widget. We shall resume that, resume that, resume that. Wait a minute. Resume that. And now we have a widget. Okay. Oh, Thomas, we're not at that part yet. The list is an array and it's going to give us a quantity, right? But what I need to do is I need to start thinking about the array will be set up that it can't be two things together the same. So you can have like copper wire, and then you can have, let's say, copper ore, and then you can have copper iron, copper wire again. I'm getting mixed up on my coppers here. Right? So you can have the same thing in the array. So I can't do it as a unique. The problem is that the widget, this list, the array list, isn't staying with me here. It's just basically being cleared. When I do this add and I get this list again, it's gone. Okay, let me explain it, right? When I add to the list, this is an empty list, okay? So there's nothing in it. So let me show you what I mean. This isn't quite what you think it is, I don't think, which is why you're kind of not understanding this. Right, so when they click on an item to craft it, it needs to go into a crafting list. Okay? Now, that crafting list may be empty, or it may not be empty. But what you can do is you can craft like copper wire, right? Thomas, I know what I'm doing with arrays. There's something weird going on here. It's clearing the array. I'm not getting anything from the array. At this point, I am only adding to the array. And the problem is, it's not adding to the array. Okay? Yes, exactly. It's blank, right? Now, the issue here is when I return to the array to add the next value, the array is blank again, right? So the first time I come in here, okay, watch this, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Right, I'll need to probably stop it and start it again to show you, right? But if I press play, right, and I bring up the crafting screen and I click copper wire, okay, what it does is goes in and checks the highest position of this in the array, okay? Now we know at this point the array is empty. So fundamentally, it's just going to jump straight down to here. The temp index is going to be -1, which means that I know that it's empty or not in this array. Okay? And so, when I resume this, it jumps to here. This value is -1. So now I know that I've got to add it to the array because this item is not in the array at all. Okay? So, if we continue on, right, so we've got our value of -1. So we check it's -1 and then we say, okay, it's not in the array, we need to add it. Okay? So next, we add it to the array, okay? And then this just looks through the array and basically tells me what values are in the array. So at this point, when we step over and we check the array has copper wire in it, which is correct. Okay? Now, we're not doing anything with the array in between here, right? So the array should be sitting with one item in it. Okay? So if we resume, it basically says print the string, and the string from this particular item is printed up here, which is copper wire. So that's correct. Okay? Now, if we click widget, it should add a new item to the array. Right? So this item is widget here. We know that widget is not in the array because it's only copper wire. So we expect it to jump straight to here, which it does. The value is -1, which tells me that this item is not in the array at all. We resume it, and at this point, our array is empty. Bizarre. That is weird. The only thing that changes this array is this. I haven't reached it again yet, but already my item list is empty. Okay? Now, I'm going to try something here just as a... What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. And I'm going to put 2 values in it. Okay? And I'm going to say it's plastic. And let's say... Doesn't really matter, silicon, right? Because those aren't in the list, so these aren't going to impact at all. So, in theory, when we come in here, we should see those 2 items by default. Okay, so it isn't going to find that, so it's going to come straight to there. It's going to resume. And now, you'll notice the items are there. Plastic and silicon. So, if we step over this, and then step over it again, and remove this print string, the breakpoint on that, we should now have 3 items, which we do. We have silicon, plastic, copper wire. Okay? So when we click on here, we should now still have our 3 items when we return back to our code. And we don't. The one that we just added has disappeared. That is absolutely bonkers. I've never seen this before. Well, it can't be getting overwritten by the new item because this is just an add. So even if it was the same item, it would still add it, right? So it's not being overwritten because that's impossible. Add does not overwrite anything. All it does is adds a new value. And the only thing being done in between is clicking the button, right? The only thing I can suggest here I mean, the click of the widget is just, oh no, oh no, I've missed something really weird. It's creating multiple widgets, because I've forgot to fill this in here. Let's get all actors of class. Oh. Right, okay. Moment of stupidness. That should not be get actors of class. Should be get widgets. What a donkey. Where's we get widgets about? What's going on here? No, it's not clearing it. It's creating a brand new widget for every single one. So every time you see the array, it's for the brand new widget's new array. I think I've just had, I'm just having one of those days where, or I'm having an hour where basically my brain's not functioning properly. I've been at this too long today, thinking about other things, and I have basically made a mess of it. Right, so this should be crafting list, and then this should be length. And if that is greater than 0, then we do that. I mean, the thing is, I knew my logic was correct. That's why I was so confused. The logic in here was absolutely right, which was really confusing me. You see this part here because, well, basically because there's not much to the logic, to be honest. So that really did throw me off. So now, in theory, it should work. We should maybe stick a breakpoint at the other widget. Right, so there you go. We got our 3 widgets, right? And I'll click on a new thing. Apparently they're clicking on the new, well, apparently, what's going on? What on earth has happened here? Right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Yeah, things went weird. Add item to list. Right. Okay, whatever. I think me clicking on that new thing threw the thing totally off. Right, let's go back to the crafting list and let's go back to here and let's remove these defaults out of the way so that they don't confuse matters. Right, so first of all, if we click I, and then hit our copper wire, we'll dismiss that then out. And we shall resume, resume, resume. And that should be 0 right now. That should be copper wire 1. And we should resume. We get our 1 thing there. And then we click on widget. And it's not coming in here. So that isn't a bad thing. That isn't a bad thing. It's left us in here and yeah, okay. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go and have a quick cigarette and a drink of orange, clear my mind. I'm making more mistakes tonight than I've made in weeks. Basically, the problem is, right now, the problem is that I'm actually got a reference to crafting widget, but I forgot to do it here. So basically, I'm not giving it a reference to send it to. So the second time I pressed the button, it failed. Right, so I'm going to be back in 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes, and I shall fix this all up and we shall get on with it. Right, back in a minute. Okay, guys, we're back. Oh, thanks for the subscription, Thomas. That's kind of you. Right, and we'll get this sorted. Right? So if it's true, we get a copy. We get copy 0, and then copy 0 goes into here. There we go. Now that should solve all our problems. That was a bit of a goof by me, it has to be said. I am not infallible. Well, none of us are infallible, but you get the point. Right, so we can close that. And we actually need to do something else. We actually need to create a new widget. It's going to be a rather boring widget, but it's going to be a widget just the same. And it's going to be in the crafting. And it's going to be widget. So it's going to be W underscore item. In fact, we shall call it list item. Okay, now it is going to be rather boring, I can assure you that, because it's just going to be, well, it is actually going to be a little more complicated than I thought. Right, so we'll put that in a canvas panel. We shall bang it into the center. Right, and the next thing, it's going to be size to content, and then 0.5 in here. Then the next thing we need to do is we need to add an image. I'm not doing anything right tonight at all. We need an image, and the image is going to be, I don't know actually, we'll just say 64 by 64. And we shall put in a default image just so we know what we're playing with and we can see the effect it's going to have. So what we'll do is we'll go to images, and this one will do. Oh, don't do this to me. Okay, so it's going to be size to content, and then we're going to have a text box. That's going to be in the canvas panel, and it's going to be locked to the bottom right. And it's going to be 0, 0, and 0.5, 0.5, we're going to need 1 and 1, it looks like. going to be 1 and 1, right? And this is where things get a little bit more exciting, because we're going to have to wrap this. We'll do it as a number. Right? And it's going to align to the right. And it's going to size to content. Then we're going to wrap the text in a size box. And then we're going to wrap the size box in a border. And then the border is going to be black. Except we're going to give it a little bit of opacity or opacity, depends on how you describe it. Okay. Cool. So we're going to need, the image is going to have to be a variable. So this is going to be image craft item, and this text box is going to be txt quantity. That's going to be a variable, and then we're going to save it. Now we don't really need to expose this on spawn. Don't need to expose this on spawn or anything like that, because it's going to change every time we click the button anyway. So we're cool with that. So we go back to our crafting list, I believe. And now we know that once we've added an item or whatever, what we actually need to do now is put the item in the grid. Okay? So we'll create a custom event, and we'll say rebuild grid. We'll go to designer, and there we have our grid panel. So we're going to rename this GP underscore crafting list, and that's a variable, and we shall save that. So the next thing is we need to actually add this. So what we're going to have to do in this particular scenario is we are going to, I'm thinking in my back of my mind that there's something that I could do that's going to make it more efficient, and I'm kind of swithering on whether to do it right now or just implement it so it works right now and then go back and change it later. I just want like an iteration. It's when you're under pressure in the stream, you know, that people want to see things happening. then you want to deliver that, but it's sometimes not the best way to do it, if you know what I mean. Right, so what we'll do is we'll bring in our GP list, we'll get it, and we shall clear children. So we're basically starting afresh. We're going to need a variable called column count. Okay, and that's going to default to 0. We'll always set it anyway because I'm kind of like that. So it's going to be 0, but every time we come in here we're going to reset it anyway, just to be on the safe side. So we shall do that. And then what we'll do, actually, you know what? I've had a thought there, we can expose on spawn. In fact, it makes sense to expose on spawn. But we'll do that in a second anyway. So we clear the children, and then we basically pull in our item list. Get the item list. Then basically for each of these, right, but, and here's the part where it gets a bit messy. In here we need to actually get the picture. Okay, so we have to get data table, get data table row names. Actually, you know what, this item might be already, and it is the row name, so I can just say get table row, and we can do this to string. Then we can plug it into there. Move this up. Just going to quickly get this working for you guys, okay? So we can do that, and it's going to be from items, and then the row out is going to give us, it's going to give us a picture basically, which is the image here. Right, whatever. Right, so now what we need to do is, if we go to our list item and we go to the graph, what we're going to do is we're going to set two variables. So we're going to say quantity, and that's going to be an integer. And the next thing we're going to add is item image, and that's going to be texture 2D. Okay, and both of these are going to be exposed on spawn. Instance editable, expose on spawn. We're going to delete these for the moment. Yeah, we're going to delete them, right? And then we actually need the event construct. So on the event construct, we are going to bring in our quantity, get our quantity, we're going to bring our image, get our image, then we're going to get this, and we are basically going to say set text text. So it's going to be set text text, and that is going to be this quantity, so it's going to convert it to text for us. We can put that up there, and then if we're lucky, we can do this and get that, and then we can type texture. So we set the brush from texture, put that in there, then the texture goes in there, that goes in there, pull that from there, push that up, grab that, drag it in, save that, and next thing is we go back to our crafting list and we create widget, and it is going to be our crafting item. No, it's not. It's going to be our W list item. W list item. Nope. It's going to be this thing here, right? Item image? What's that all about? Right. Yeah, that's a bit weird. So that's on row found, and in here we can do that. Then we can hide the unconnected pins. And we want the image. Right, and we get the quantity. Plug it in here. Refresh that. And then we say build grid, rebuild grid. Okay. Oops, I have blew this, or at least I'm not finished. Self-taught, mate. So we have to get our GP list, and then we have to add child to grid, then we get this, add it in there, add this in here, then we get the column count, add it in here, then we duplicate that, move it over to here, and then we increment it 1. Increment, and then we plug that in there, and hopefully, if the magic all works, don't know how optimistic I am here, but we'll try it. So we should actually get a list. Okay, resume, 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 resume. And it didn't do it. Well, isn't that a bummer? Okay. add to breakpoint. We shall try that again. Now, I think we've got the correct list now. So we'll disable that, and we shall disable that, resume that, and we shall disable that. We shall step over and resume. Okay. Apparently we didn't go in here. Right, so that wasn't too helpful. So apparently this code up here didn't work. Didn't work for some unknown reason. We're getting the copy at 0. Which is exactly what we're expecting. Right, we're going to stop that just now, and we'll see what it actually failed at. Add item to list. Right, so I'm guessing add a breakpoint, right? There's something weird going on with this. Right, so we click here. Right? Now I'm going to stop that because I actually want to know if it got here. We'll add a breakpoint, right? Because now it's kind of failing. Ah, God, again. Right. That's going to there. That's going to there. And that is getting removed. And that is going to there. Right. Dismiss, dismiss. Sorry guys, getting late. Right. Step over. Right, so that's correct. We resume that. And this time we rebuild the grid. Okay, now our list should say copper wire 1. And if we resume that, this should still say copper wire 1, which it does. Step over that. Step not over that. Because, believe it or not, this isn't quite right. What I've got to say here is a replace, and it's basically a space with nothing. Right. little things I'm forgetting here. And step over, there we go, resume, ta-da, 1. Hey! Pretty cool actually, quite impressed with that. So if we click on that, we can resume, ta-da! Pretty impressive. And now I've not got it to add yet, so it's going to do some weird shit because I haven't applied the logic yet. But what we can do is we can disable that for a kickoff. We can disable that. Yeah, so it's not going to function quite as expected yet, but basically the main thing is that it's working. But it won't add yet, but these are going to add, these are going to get added on. Okay, and with that, I think I'll call it a night because I'm making too many mistakes. It's getting late, it's beer time. And we shall continue this tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central or GMT for any Brits who are up really late. And thank you for joining, thank you for subscribing, Thomas, that's very kind of you, and Kofi as well. And I shall see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, calling it a night, mate. As I said, I'm feeling, this is the first time in about a week I've felt tired on a stream, and the tiredness is making me make mistakes. And making mistakes on the stream just looks twice as bad as making them basically when I'm doing other things. But you can see that it's working perfectly. It's doing exactly what we want at this point in time. So it's giving us a little value in black. It's giving us the widget item. So we've got a bit more logic to do for this to be working. We're going to have to pad out these buttons so that they're not absolutely tightly together, which is no big deal. And then we've got to work on the logic where it works out what the highest position that item has in the list. So what I mean by that is if I add another new thing, right, then it should add this, make this 2. Okay? But if I add anything else, then it should add a new column here. Okay? That is basically the idea. And that's why I return the highest position in array back for an item, so that then I can check it against the last item and then either add it to the quantity or add a new item to the grid or to the array, so that it can be then displayed here. But as I said, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you guys for joining me. Check out the description for the links to my other Steam game, my Patreon, and something else which I can't even remember at this point. But thanks for the last time, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Oh, yeah, my Discord. You can join my Discord. There's a link to my Discord as well. So, good night.